Hi everybody, today's guest is Damien Cooper. Damien is a fellow Lefty guitarist, originally from Coffs Harbour in Australia. Now lives in London. He's 47 years old, and for the last 11 years pre-COVID, he was the guitarist in Thriller Live. Me and Damien caught up about all things guitar related and much more. Enjoy. Hey. Damien, how are you, mate?
I'm okay, mate. Yeah, it's snowing outside. You know, had a coffee, awake.
Good. And it's very early on a Sunday, I must point out.
It's very, very early. Yes, I've been up really. Yeah. It was up early actually. Woke up really early. Went to bed early. Getting old.
Well, it happens to all of us, isn't it? And I think everything that's going on at the moment, that's definitely happening to all of us. We've tried to arrange this around our own lives. Not that there's too much going on in our own lives, but around our children more than anything at the moment. Hence why we're here doing this on a Sunday morning. Can we first have a look at the stuff that you got behind you, mate? Can you talk us through some of this stuff?
Yeah, there's a few of my faves on the wall, and there's a few more. Probably the real good ones are the...
What year is the gold top?
It's a custom shop, 57.
Beautiful.
57, yeah. Hard to play, but just oozes tone.
They've got quite a big neck on those ones, haven't they? Very
big, yeah. I had it refretted with normal 6125s? No, 6105s when I bought it.
Okay.
And I spent, $3 to $4 grand on it and had it refretted straight away like a twat because I don't like those really little frets. Just couldn't play it,
Sure.
But yeah, it's great. I mean, it's nice to play that into the camper and pull up a Robin Ford sound and do that kind of thing,
Nice, man. Very nice.
Yeah, I got a Nash telly, got a few tellies, a few Strats.
Can we just talk about the Sirs? Because I've tried a couple of friends once and I really like them. Which one have you got, and what would you sort of recommend?
That's I got that one for Thriller when I was doing Thriller early on, about 10 years ago. And it's the 60s, 63, I think it's supposed to be. With the Landau pickups. Yeah, I mean they're beautifully made, but they're like it's like a Lexus compared to a Jaguar. Like they're very sort of generic guitars. They don't have the sort of personality you might get from a just an open-ended Strat or a good custom shop Strat. But it's great. There's no dead points on the neck. It's stainless steel frets. I actually put some bare knuckle pickups in it. I changed the pickups, which made it sound more Stratty, which I love.
What did you put in it?
Yeah, it was the Mother Milk.
Yep.
And the VH2, which is a Van Halen sort of medium-range humbucker, but it's quite Stratty. My friend Marco Gerasi recommended those to me, and I put them in. They sound great. Just changed the guitar, and that's had the crap played out of it. It's just been played so much on the show, and it's been really reliable.
Yeah, we'll talk about the whole Thriller thing more in a little while, but yeah, I mean, bare knuckle, they're a huge. I'm a huge fan of their stuff. I've been using them for a long time, and I've mentioned them several times on here with them. Some of the guitars that I've used, but I also talked about how hard it is sometimes to try, not just with bare knuckle, but with any pickup brand, knowing what you're going to get out of it, because it's always a bit of a shot in the dark as to, you can only ever go on recommendation and description, essentially, can't you?
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure they all probably sound great, but unless you're a millionaire and you've got loads of time, unless you're Scott Henderson, I've got someone like that, you haven't got time to really do that. But yeah, all the pickups I've had there sound great. They sound like what they say on the box, like the Hank Marvin ones, they do sound like that sound.
Yeah, and that's the craziest thing. And you can put them in. I've got them in cheap guitars. I've got a couple of Mexican Fenders. I've got a Telly and a Strat, and my Telly, I've done it on here. I've done a video on it. Sounds amazing. My Strat, that's got Irish tours in it. That sounds amazing as well, because something I learned really early on when I got my first Epiphone Les Paul, put it through a high gain amp, squealed like crazy, changed the bridge pickup to, I think, a Seymour Duncan distortion, and for me it just changed the guitar. And still I have that outlook on guitars that you can hugely improve them by changing the pickups.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that some of the ones I tour with they're just cheap Frankenstein, not cheap, but they're normal bodies with souped up Callahan bridges and nice pickups, and makes a huge difference. You're not worried about it getting destroyed.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where you can get a really nice workhorse guitar, and you're not bothered if it gets lost, damaged, stolen, or whatever. You know what I mean?
exactly. Yeah,
great, man.
I wouldn't take the gold top on the road because the necks just go.
Yeah,
you know, I've seen them fall out of. I've seen guitars fall out of planes. I've seen it happen. My guitars, they're unloading, from a small plane somewhere in Norway. You just see the, SKB case, like it's an SKB case, come out. If that was a Gibson, it'd be gone.
Yeah, of course.
But if it's a Tele Strat, it's like
where you sit on the when you sit on the plane sometimes when you're boarding, and you can see everything being put on, and you see your guitar case coming up, and you see the handlers go to grab it, and you think, please,
they don't care.
No,
they don't care. Yeah,
no, and at that point, there's nothing you can do or say apart from just watch your guitar, find its fate.
Funnily enough, I had an XFX, still got it, 2XL, and had a gig in Denmark, and they left it on the runway. We couldn't find it. We waited for hours and hours. Then we drove. We had to do a bus ride for like 7 hours. Again, I think it was in Denmark. No, it was Norway, I think. And it didn't turn up. Didn't have it. The next day, the gig was setting up. We're waiting for it to turn up. They found it. It had been left on the runway. It had water in it, and it's fine. It still worked. I mean, those things. I'm surprised. I've had it it's been to Australia twice over the last 6 years, and it still hasn't stopped working. Which is
amazing.
Pretty amazing.
And that's the thing. That's why those things win these days, because portability, size, practicality over anything, unfortunately. And I know, obviously, having spent most of my life playing great big valve amps and stuff, but you wouldn't be able to leave a plexi head on a runway in the rain and then expect it to work, But that's what you get. Okay, listen, man, we're going to go back. We're going to go way back with you. I want to talk about what was it that first started it for you to playing guitar? What inspired you? Do you remember when you first picked it up? I want to know, what was your first guitar? Who were your inspirations? That sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I was about 12, 11 or 12. And I'd always liked music. My dad had the Shadows records and all sorts of different stuff on vinyl. And I was definitely into music, and not just, I like pop and rock, but I like instrumental music as well. I kind of was drawn to that from an early age, like Muso music, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
And I had a friend started learning guitar. I thought I'd like to do that because I tried the piano, didn't like it. And you just got your typical run-of-the-mill acoustic. And just from there, just fell in love with it. Oh, an A minor chord. Wow. E minor. That was the first 2 chords I learned.
Yeah, yeah.
And just the sound of those chords, they still sound amazing to me. Just the sound of an A minor chord and a really beautiful guitar, an E minor chord. And I just fell in love with it and was addicted. Like all musicians become when they find their instrument. And school went out the window, and it was kind of coming home and just playing all day, playing in my lunch hour, and discovering the blues, I think, early on. That was the thing that really excited me. B.B. King and Hendrix and Clapton and all those early guys kind of got me into it first, and then the Shredders sort of came later, Satriani and Vire and all those guys. That was
great, man. So what was that first acoustic that you got? What was it? Was it actually a right-handed one that you had to restring lefty?
Yeah, I had about 5 or 6 lessons in a local music shop, and I was already teaching myself more than the guy could teach me. And it was just some cheap Chinese knockoff, cheap guitar, until my dad got me an electric a couple of years later, which was an Onyx. Okay. An Onyx. I don't know if you've ever heard of those, but it's just the cheap was a white Strat with a black pickguard. I loved it. And I started
obviously a proper, they made lefties.
That was a Lefty.
Was it black?
That was a Lefty. No, it was white.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it was white. Yeah.
I just remember when I got my first electric, which probably would have been in the late 80s, it was an Aria Pro 2. And in fact, I ended up having 2 of them, because then I bought another one like about a year or 2 later, which had a Floyd Rose on that one. But they were both black, because that was the only sort of color they did,
That's a good way to start.
So moving on from there then, like inspirations, you start learning. When was your first sort of, when did you start gigging? What was your first bands, that sort of thing?
Pretty quickly, yeah. It was probably only a couple of years later. There's a country, because I grew up in a little country town called Mudgee, which is sort of in New South Wales in Australia. 10,000 people, outback Australia kind of thing. And there's a fiddle player there who sang, and he used to do weddings and stuff, and he was looking for a guitarist. Saw the ad in the paper, and my parents were really supportive, and they let me, meet the guy on audition. I got the gig. So my first gig was a function gig on a wedding in a church, and then the after party thing, playing like Orange Blossom Special and stuff, things like that, but just playing on electric pretty badly, I would imagine. And that's kind of where it started, and that it wasn't really me. And I met some other musicians in a local town from that, and they started getting me in their bands, and I just started playing pubs for the next few years, playing rock and pop. And
were these paid gigs? Were you getting cash from?
Paid gigs, yeah, but proper gigs. Feeling. Yeah, I was lucky. I met all the musicians in the town, and I picked things up really quickly. I was already into chops and solos, and but it did teach me how to play. There's lots, you learn playing songs to swing, how to learn a solo, or you're playing a Clapton tune or, Thin Lizzy, and that kind of was good. It was a good way to learn those things, and playing a, rhythm guitar. And I loved it. I just, that was my thing. I stopped playing rugby, and on the weekends, because we'd have a gig in a town 3 hours drive away, and that's where it all kind of started.
Do you think it helped coming from a small town, like sort of it enabled, because there wasn't many people there, so you sort of stood out a bit more, and a bit more of a network rather than huge amounts of people in a city or whatever?
Probably. I mean, I think I would have done better to be in Sydney. I mean, I taught myself pretty much. It would have been great to have some older musicians or guitar players that were really advanced and could, teach me get those early kind of things happening. Because I couldn't read or anything. That was far away, and just trying to understand something. Everything was via ear. Probably like how everyone learns. You start learning. You're trying to jam along with the track. You learn this. You start learning. Oh, I can play this scale up here, but you don't know what it is. And eventually, I realised I knew Dorian, I knew Aeolian. I just had to change that note there, and that fitted in with that key. And you don't know what it is. I didn't learn about it till I went to uni years later. And even then, I struggled. Just the idea of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How does that work? I was a bit of a stoner. I was pretty out there.
Right.
It took me a long time to get my head around that. But yeah.
What was the transition into moving, sort of going from the small town, going from the gigs to? So you went to university. Where was that? And so so young adolescence. What was that all about, kind of thing? Yeah,
I was really lucky. I mean, I wanted to play music. I didn't know what to do, and a friend of mine was doing this contemporary music course about 10 hours north of where I lived, in a place called Lismore, which is a big country town near a beautiful place called Byron Bay on the coast. It's about an hour and a half drive from Brisbane, below the Gold Coast. It's gorgeous. You've probably heard of it. Lots of superstars live there. It's lovely. There was this course set up by this band in Australia, all the players from this band called Crossfire, which they were like a 70s, 80s fusion band. And they taught this contemporary music course. It was a BA, and it sort of covered blues, jazz, rock, Latin, technology, music history, music theory, all these kinds of things. And I thought, wow, imagine if I could do that. My grades were really low. I never studied. I just played music. And luckily, my dad drove up in our old car, took us up, did a long drive, took us a whole day. And we camped out on a beach somewhere, and he took me in for the audition. And that's where I met this Aussie guitar player called Jim Kelly, who was my lecturer. He was a very well-known session player over there, still is. He was like Australia's Larry Colton, basically. And I played him a couple of pieces, like a rock track I'd written, shreddy thing, and a version of... these are a few of my favorite things, which was inspired by Stanley Jordan, but I couldn't play like Stanley Jordan. I was just trying to emulate this kind of thing he did. And he really liked it, and he got me in to the course, and I was really lucky. And I kind of just got, it all started from there. Basically, I didn't know what a major scale was. I could play it all over and down the net, but it was that's where I started learning about what it actually was, and that was amazing because it's like going to band camp because everyone's into the same thing. Everyone's into music. So it was incredible time, up there. And
great.
Learned a lot.
So you sort of had the practical side of things. You've been gigging since a young age. Then you sort of like then you went on to study. So with all of that in mind, like where did you go from there? What was the next steps?
I moved to Sydney.
Right.
And I was a terrible hustler. Like I wasn't really driven enough to get gigs, but luckily I had a day job pretty much for a long time. And I had a day job when I came over here as well, because I had nothing. But just started doing, it was a function band I was in for a while that was pretty busy. And, met some local players and was in little groups, so like sort of little jazzy fusion bands, because I was into all that kind of music. Love jazz and funk. There was a lot of that. And it was tough. I mean, I wasn't, I was working, but I wasn't like really, really busy. And there was no show scene over there. There's probably 3 shows, and I knew nothing about that.
Right.
That whole scene didn't really interest me. I didn't take up music to play musical theatre.
Same. Yeah, exactly. It's just where you end up.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of floated around for a while and then ended up moving over here in 2004.
Right.
And luckily I knew an Aussie ND by the name of John Ma, who had heard me play, had actually booked me on anything in Australia, but he started booking me for stuff over here.
Right.
So I did my first show, did the tour of Jesus Christ Superstar in Denmark for a few weeks. I'd never done a show before. And that's where that kind of work started happening. And that was amazing. Like, I'd never been to Europe before, so I'd only been here a few months and got this gig. And
see, that was going to be my next question, the move from, moving halfway around the world and how quickly you were managing to pick up work. And obviously a lot of, part of what you do is skill. Part of what you do is, the industry and who you know. I mean, that's a lucky break right there, to be able to move to a completely alien country, but then to actually have someone look after you and give you your first gig, which of course then, that's the one thing you need to open the door to everything else, isn't it?
Of course. Yeah. I mean, I was lucky, and it was hard. I mean, I worked a day job. I worked in call centers and stuff and did horrible things alongside that, when I should have been really hustling myself in the West End and doing that kind of thing. But I didn't know anything about that scene,
Sure.
I was kind of really into improvisation and that, music, but I wasn't really trying to push myself out there as a commercial player. No. But working with John sort of helped me school those, things. Because you can play doesn't mean you're good at playing shows, or
exactly.
you have to be able to do what someone wants, and
yes.
And so it was.
The thing is, when you start doing that, when you start doing the whole show thing, you then, even when I've always been quite comfortable in my own skin, but when I started doing shows, it was like, I've still got so much to learn here. You know what I mean? And I thought I was kind of on top of everything, but you don't. And it's because it's just a completely different arena from anything else you've ever done. It
is, yeah. I guess it's, I enjoy it for that. I mean, it's particularly, I mean, if you're depping, and if it's your gig, it's like you can do it with your eyes closed. But
yeah,
if you're depping for someone, that can be really challenging if you don't get to do it much, and fun, particularly if it's a great band. And
absolutely, and that's why
everyone can hear any note that's out. Everyone's like, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want to be that guy.
No, and I was saying to a friend of mine who I've just had on here doing the same thing. He's an actor, but I was trying to explain to him about when you're a dep going into a show for a first time. It is one of the most terrifying things sometimes, and
every time
the pressure, the pressure that's on
it never gets easier because it's your reputation on the line every time. And you think, well, it's kind of like you're only as good as your last gig.
Exactly that.
And I think we judge ourselves like that a lot, even on normal gigs. You're always, even practicing, which is something I'm trying not to do now. It can be really negative. You pick something up and go, oh, this sounds terrible. Well, in fact, it doesn't sound terrible. It's just a gremlin in your head, which is ruining the whole experience from you and stopping you from being more efficient and being better at doing that. But that's another whole topic. But
no, absolutely, man.
Yeah. But shows. Let's hope they come back, huh?
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? Because there's quite a few of us wouldn't mind a bit of work from down there at the moment. So you did that first tour. So what happened after that? What were your next gigs after that?
Yeah, so John booked me on that, and I did a few little things here and there, and then another tour with him, another show, different show, a Motown show, and there was a bit of touring around the UK, and went to Germany and places like that. And then Thriller came along, and that was a tour in its early days, about 2007, when it was pretty bad. It was like an Amdram show, it wasn't great. And then because of that, I was on the tour. I got the gig in the West End, basically. So that kind of led into that. I got lucky, Yeah,
absolutely.
And before that came in, I had started dipping in the West End. Pete Callard recommended me for something because I'd worked with him on a show, and very nice of him to do that. And that was kind of a leg in.
Yeah.
To do a show on the West End, which was really like a big deal at the time.
He's a great guy.
Great guy, amazing musician.
He is.
Lovely cat. Got a lot of time for him.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And do you know what? He's the only other person I know that I share my birthday with.
Really?
Yeah, because we're both born on New Year's Day.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, wow.
And I was actually
you hung over every birthday as soon as you get up, basically.
Well, if you're not hungover, everyone else is, so you never hear from anyone because they're all hungover. You know what I mean? But
no one loves me.
Yeah. He's a good lad. So the whole Thriller thing, then it started as a tour, and then it went into town.
Yeah.
For those people who aren't aware, do you want to just give us a quick rundown of what Thriller Live was?
Yeah, it's all singing, all dancing. I wouldn't call it a tribute show as much because there's female singers, there's male singers. They're not just trying to look like him all the time. Great dancing, and just basically going through chronologically just about all his music from the J5 stuff all the way up.
I never saw it. It always struck me as it was more of a, like you say, it's not really a tribute or a sort of a biopic type thing. It sort of almost felt like it was more of one of those old school review shows. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a very good way. Yeah, that's a very complimentary way of putting it. Yeah.
So it spanned everything. So there's different people playing essentially his part throughout the different. So how many people would play him in one show? Like how many? So
you'd have a kid. You'd have one guy who kind of tried to look like him, who could do Billie Jean and do the dancing and stuff. Sorry, mixture of people doing it. Yeah.
What was the outlook when it first went in? What do you because everyone sort of has these anticipations about how long a show will run for.
Yeah, I think they were expecting a few months. We didn't know, and then of course he passed away, and I think that helped. Cement him in. But it was selling pretty well, pretty quickly. It did pretty well, I think. I mean, to be there for 11 years, it may come back. It may come back one day. You never know. Because it's a simple thing. It's not this intellectually hard to concentrate kind of. People can fly in from Italy, who can't speak English, and go watch the show because that's the kind of audience you're getting from all around the world.
Yeah,
it's just the fans. It's a good feeling
because it focused more on the songs than any type of storyline or whatever. But also the bonus with those jukebox musical ones is that it's always a safe bet in terms of the punter that if it's a show that they're familiar with or based on an artist that they're familiar with, that's where they'll put their money. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What was it like? I mean, musically, man, I'm a child of the 80s, so Michael Jackson was a big thing for me. I mean, musically, that must have been a great one to play. Did you do any stuff like off the wall or?
Of course. Yeah.
God, that album.
It's the whole genre. Yeah. So, lots of the best parts to play were the funky parts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you're just sitting on a pocket.
Yeah.
And be stuff like something simple like this. That kind of something simple like that, or even just that's out of tune. Even stuff like Rock With You, you've done 1,000 times.
Yes.
But a great, I love that stuff. Human Nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Steve Lukather parts. I mean, John Marr, he was the arranger as well. He's quite meticulous and very OCD, and he would have to work out every little thing. You know,
and was it for you to play it? Was it? I often feel there's a little, sometimes there's a little differences when you're given the parts, and you often feel, oh, I don't know if that's the way it should be. You know, was there some sort of middle ground? Were you happy with everything? Did you make any of it a bit more your own to how you felt it was more like the original?
Not really. It was pretty. It was very much like the original. Great. The way it was charted. There was loads of dots. You're really playing what's on the book.
Yeah.
But 97% of the time, it was very, very written out. Amazing guitar parts.
Was there an on-stage bit for you as well?
Yeah, a few on-stage bits. Yeah, so the Beat It solo, Dirty Diana,
right,
and they don't care about us. Yeah, they don't care about us. Yeah, so there's a few little things on stage.
Great, man.
Going out and rocking out and making shapes, and with all these beautiful young 20-year-old dancers with six packs, and here I am with my beer gut.
Just keeping it real, man. You know what I mean?
It was very real. I can assure you.
Was there any? So 11 years.
11 years. Yeah, 2009 when we opened, and it opened
8 shows a week. 11 years.
8 shows a week. I mean, of course, I didn't do all the shows all the time.
No, of course.
I was lucky I could take time off, so I was doing other gigs, and physically very full on to play because a lot of music, not much downtime.
Yeah.
So when you get tired, you start slouching, and you start using bad technique. I used to have a few issues, so it was pretty full on.
It's a funny one when you're stuck in that rut of playing essentially the same thing for such a long period of time. You got to have some sort of self-discipline sometimes, I think, to take time away from that and just
definitely
do something else.
Definitely.
Because it's very easy at that point to be able to just get stuck playing exactly the same patterns and the same licks, the same.
It's not music. It's not music anymore.
No,
it really isn't. It's funny, and it can be quite difficult.
Yeah,
quite difficult mentally, but that's the job. And of course, right now, I give my auntie's hat to go and be able to do that right now and play 8 shows a week.
Yeah,
it's been 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
But great fun, and there's only a small band, 6-piece band, a lot of stuff on track, because they just to do that live with everything and all the horns, the tickets would be ridiculous.
Of course. Was it just one guitar chair, or was there another guitarist?
No, John was a split chair, so he'd play key 3s and guitar 2.
Oh, okay, right.
So we'd do it that way. And a lot of depth, so a lot of good players would come in, which is nice because, of course, shows can be, when you've done a show for so long, even just having a different drummer changes everything, or a different bass player. And I'm sure for my bandmates, having all these great guitar players coming when I wasn't there was great for them, because it just, even though you're saying they're playing the same parts, it's different.
For sure. How did it work with it's a pain when you depth for someone, obviously they're right-handed, but I like this bit of payback that you got being a lefty, and then you're having to bring their own right-handed guitars.
Yeah, they brought their own guitars. I mean, we had a band room upstairs that was full of guitars. In the end, it was just everyone had instruments there, and people so regularly in, because I used to take a lot of time off. So yeah, that was good. These days I'm turning up to a show, I'm taking 4 guitars with me. Although luckily things have changed. You get these great cases now, you can get 2 in each.
Yes.
So it's not one on the back carrot. It's not a big deal.
No, and one of the best cases I've got one of those cases where it's a soft case that goes over your shoulders, but it holds an acoustic in the back and an electric in the front.
That's a mono? Yeah, is it a mono?
No, it's not a mono one. It's not as classy as a mono one. It's
a mono. Yeah,
I think it was
when I had money.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I found it from. I actually wanted it because I was leaving some guitars somewhere, and I needed it to buy so I could leave the case in a pit, funnily enough, outside the band room. And I just found it from Toman, and it was like, I think it was 50 or 60 quid or something. You know what I mean?
That's cheap.
Then since then, there's loads of them about now, mono ones and all sorts. Brilliant.
Yeah, they're great.
So let's talk about gear. So you use Axe Effects or use Kemper? What's the deal now?
It was an Axe Effects on the show.
Okay.
It started out as a Line 6 pod, and then a Vox Turn Lab, and then a Line 6 rack, and then eventually we got to to have an Axe effects, and I programmed it all basically each time, which was the fun. Try and get those sounds, and you have to learn the gear. But I've got an Axe effects and also a Kemper. I love the Kemper. I'm probably more into the Kemper these days because it's just so easy.
Sure.
Just go 57 tweed. Oh, that sounds great. I don't have to go dealing with any.
Yeah.
You know, those Brit profiles are amazing,
aren't they?
They just sound great. I haven't plugged into an amp for a long time. I really miss.
No, I know what you mean. The thing that really worries me about all of this is we're all falling into the trap, even me. And I actually use a Line 6 Helix, but it's got the Michael Brit profiles.
They're great. They're great as well, yeah.
Right. And I've talked about it before in here, but it was just the interface and the whole thing. I can have it all in the floor unit. Great. Again, just for practicality. But I tell you what, man, and this is what worries me about the kids who are growing up today using these things, is we're all slowly losing touch with speaker interaction. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because everything's DI'd. You know, sometimes you haven't got the opportunity to use an actual speaker cab, and just to have that whole feedback loop of guitar signal coming out, and you know, being able to interact with the speaker moving and the air moving around it and all that stuff, that, you know, it's a funny thing.
Yeah, I love the sound of an amp. It's you know, it's
you can't beat it, but
no.
Again, it's just sometimes not that practical. So you used this behind you. That was the main Thriller guitar then?
That was the guitar on Thriller.
How many times did you have it refretted during the time that you used it?
Hasn't been refretted.
Amazing.
Because it's stainless steel.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I played the absolute bejesus out of it all up and down the neck. They may have had one fret job, I think, but the stainless steel frets are great. Great, you know, if you're playing a West End show and you can afford it and get a guitar like that, get stainless steel frets.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, I think they're a bit brighter. They have a different, brighter sound, but
how do they feel?
Very positive.
When you're playing, do you notice a?
No, I don't think so. I never really thought about that, actually. I guess they feel fast.
Okay.
They feel fast. That's not particularly a fast guitar to play, though. I would say it's quite. You have to really work it, you know. But yeah, it's hard to say. I guess different, probably. It would feel softer if you had, you know, normal Fender frets, because they are softer.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how to describe that really, but yeah. So that took a beating.
Sure. Has there ever been a time over the years that there was a guitar like the one that got away? Was there ever a guitar you saw, you thought, oh, I don't know, and you didn't buy it, and then you regret it?
Yeah, it's probably been a few, but I just couldn't afford it at the time. There was a Guild I saw in Rare and Vintage in Denmark Street, Guild Starfire with a Bixby cherry red Lefty. The reason that was special because my dad's got one exactly the same that he bought in the 60s, which was bestowed to my brother because he's a right-handed guitarist, and of course I couldn't play it. That would have been cool to have.
Yeah,
it had some mojo, you know, but at the time was like, oh, I better not, you know.
It's funny.
There's probably been a few. It's just money, isn't it? You know, there's things. There's always things.
There was one for me. There was one that I was doing a guitar show in Marshall years ago in Birmingham somewhere, and there was like a vintage and rare guy had a stand there, and he had a Lefty Gibson double neck, and it was like, I think it was from the.
So an SG, is that?
Yeah, like the SG, you know, the double neck, it's like the Jimmy Page type.
Yeah.
And it was proper. It was like the cherry red. It was the whole shebang. And I'd never, ever seen one in my life before. And they're in this huge case open. And I just looked at it and thought, my God. And at the time, and this is going back quite a few years, at the time, he wanted $3,000 for it, I think. Like, obviously,
should have bought it.
I know. You imagine what that'd be worth now?
Yeah. You probably wouldn't have sold it, though.
No, I know.
Because I've heard hearing you play, like you're such a rock guy. That's your thing, man. I can see that sort of instrument on you.
I'm just not. I don't know. I think about it sometimes. And I think how much would I have actually used it though? I'm not sure I would have done it.
You need to do a Led Zeppelin.
Great to have on the wall. You know what I mean?
You need a Led Zeppelin tribute band that plays really well. That's what you need.
Yes, then I could justify finding that guitar. I mean, you do find them. You do find them every now and then. The custom shops seem to roll them out every now and then. But yeah, this particular one, that's my one that got away, you know. But I think sometimes, you know, like we've just said, had I bought it, it would have been a great investment. It wouldn't have been wasted money. It wouldn't have lost value, you know.
It'd be nice to buy something. I don't own anything really old.
Right.
It'd be nice to have something that was, I mean, you know, I can't afford to spend 10 grand on a 60s Strat or something, but it would be nice to have something that, it's like old cars. I like old cars, you know.
Of course.
But a player, something you could play.
Yeah.
You can take out and play.
Absolutely.
I mean,
it's quite nice that we get the things like, you know, your 57 reissue that you've got. I've got one very similar as well. You know, I've got a couple of old vintage bits. You know, I've got a mid 70s Strat actually that I just did the video for. I've got I've got a Les Paul custom that was made in 81, which is the same year that I was born. Yeah. So when I found out, I thought, I've got to have that. And I got a really good deal on it at the time. And I've owned that for, I don't know, 25 years or something. You know,
that must be heavy.
It's really heavy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really, like the heavy.
Is that black with 3 pickups? Is that what that is?
No, it's tobacco burst with 2 pickups in. And actually, I put bare knuckles in that. That's got bare knuckle nail bombs in that.
Dude, we have to have a hang. We have to come over sometime when the plague has ended, and I'll bring over what. Well, that sounds like you've got more than I have, but you know, this is the nice thing between, you know, you, me, and Terry. You know, think collectively the amount of guitars that we've got between us. So, you know, it's crazy. We could have a right. I've had a couple of hangs in his little studio downstairs. He's got some amazing guitars and pedals. And
yeah, I know.
He's really into it. He's, you know.
And he's so, you know, Terry's so meticulous, and he's got everything laid out.
Check this sound out. It turns on 10 pedals, and there's this machine up here, and you know, it's all in stereo. It's in stereo with a dry run in the middle, and the root. You know, as we drink fine white wine.
Oh, I love it, man.
Shout out to Terry. Yeah,
absolutely.
Call him very soon.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Great, man. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Is there anything I haven't asked you about or spoken to you about that you wanted to mention? Anything at all?
Not really. I think we covered. I mean, there's been other gigs and stuff, but
yeah. Tell us about.
Everyone's got other gigs. A completely different band I've done for the last 5 years is the 70s band Dr. Hook.
Right.
And Dennis LaCoria, the lead singer, he lives over here. And that's just, it's really fun. We go away on tour and been really lucky. That's been a great experience. We're all good friends, great band. And that's a totally different play again. It's like Americana meets country meets 70s pop meets Nashville.
Nice.
And I try and recreate all the pedal steel stuff just with the volume.
Sure.
Try and get those sounds on stage. You know, that's been a fun gig. We've had a bunch of dates in the book, but they've all, of course, not happened. But it'll be great when that happens again. You know, and the West End.
Sure.
Hopefully.
Absolutely. Yeah, man.
But I think that's it. That's it, really. Just talk about beer and wine.
I don't think anyone would tune in though. I'd love to. Honestly, if it was down to me, this channel would be about fine ale and Star Wars. You know, but no one's going to.
Yeah. Nice to talk. Thanks for having me on, mate. Nice to talk to you, and let's hook up in person.
Definitely, be great
when things are safer.
Thanks very much for coming on, mate.
Thank you, brother.
Cheers.
See you soon, man.